So I own a lens that I typically don't actually like, and it's been sat in my bag doing absolutely nothing for about 2 years now. I recently forced myself to actually use this lens, and it gave me a new perspective that I didn't actually expect that it would. The lens in question is the Canon RF 35mm 1.8. I picked this lens up when I first moved over to mirrorless, and the reason was I needed something wide enough to actually shoot some talking head videos and for close spaces where my 50mm was a bit too tight. And that is the only job that it's actually ever had in my kit bag. When it comes to shooting street work or if I'm out and about, I typically use a 50mm or even an 85mm. And the reason for that is I want my subjects to be isolated from the environment. I want that compression, I want to cut everything out of the frame that isn't necessary. And the 35mm does the complete opposite of that. It actually pulls the environment in. And for a very long time I couldn't actually find a use for that in my work. So to try something new, I took it out to the woods with the dog. So there was no pressure, there's no plan, it's just me out with the dog, seeing what I can actually do at this focal length. And I'm not gonna lie, it was harder than I actually expected. And that's nothing to do with the lens is perfect. So if there's nothing technically wrong, the problem was I was fighting my every instinct to cut everything out of the image. I was framing everything up tight when I realized I should actually be pulling more environment in. So I had to actually slow down and think about what the environment was actually given to the image, rather than trying to cut it out. And what I actually noticed when I got back home was that the environment wasn't actually getting in the way. It was actually doing something. The light breaking through the trees, the open ground, the dog moving through the frame. It wasn't noise, it was just context. And that context changes the feeling of the image completely. These didn't look like portraits, they look more like memories, the kind of photo that you take on your phone without thinking, except there was actual intention behind them. And I think for me, that's what I've personally been dismissing about the wider focal lengths. And I thought that pulling back meant losing control of the image. What it actually meant was letting the scene breathe. My usual approach is about isolation. I get close, I compress the background, and I make the subject everything. And that works, but what 35mm forces me to do is realize that sometimes the subject's more interesting when you can actually see where they are and what the world is around them. And there's something more relatable about that. A tight portrait is impressive, but a wide shot that feels like a real moment, that's the one people save. And the other place that I tested this lens out was at a gym when I was covering one of the classes. And I had the 35mm on my B cam and the 85mm on my main camera. And this is where that I realized that the 35mm has a place. By having it on the second camera, I've got room to cover the tight portraits and capture the environment that they're actually in. And the 35mm picks up that group energy and brings that community to life. And that's something that a longer focal length actually can't do. You're not observing from a distance, you're actually inside the moment. Now, I'm not converting fully. My 85mm and my 50mm are still going to be my go-to lenses. But I do feel like I've been using the 35mm as a backup lens rather than a specific tool for a specific job. And the 35 and 85mm combo might actually be the combo that I've been missing. So you get that tight subject and that wide context. And that's two different ways of reading the same scene. So if you shoot with a focal length that you've totally wrote off, take it out for a session with no expectations, and it might actually surprise you.